So here's a question that everybody's talking about. Everybody's talking about, is the real estate housing market going to crash? Are we in a bubble? What are your thoughts on that?
I don't. I don't. In no way do I believe there's going to be a crash. A bubble is one of those questions that it's really. I mean, what is your definition of a bubble? Are prices inflated a little bit? Yeah, they're inflated a little bit, but they're inflated because of fundamentals, which is supply and demand, right? So if you go back to anything in history that has driven up prices in really any industry. I mean, and it goes off supply and demand, right? When you have a lack of something and you have a lot of people that want something, the price is going to continue to go up. And that's why, for one, our grandparents were able to purchase homes, in the teens of thousands of dollars, $15,000, $20,000 in some cases. And those homes today are worth over $1 million, right? And it baffles me when people say, well, prices are above where they were in the past, therefore they have to retract. No, the only way prices are going to change is if demand drops and we get some sort of influx of supply. And I don't see either of those happening at the moment, just because you have interest rates, right? Interest rates are a key driver in the market. And they have been prior to the pandemic, but the pandemic, things were, a little fire was added, fuel was added to that fire. And it just, it put buying in a different position because the payments were lower than they were when people were looking a year prior, when home prices were actually less than they were during this time. So, you got this added fuel, and with all of that, you've had, prices just continue to rise. Plus you have millennials, right? And everybody wants to discount the millennials, but the millennials are becoming prime buying age. They're now reaching that point in their lives where they need houses. And so they're coming into the market, and people are wondering, well, how are they affording these properties? Well, one is a lot of them have good paying jobs. A lot of them have lived at home a lot longer than, say, I did when I left at 18 and went to college. So a lot of them have lived through, their 20s or so and stayed at college or at home and saved money. In addition, you've got a whole different dynamic playing into the market, which I don't think a lot of people are factoring in, and that's the baby boomers, right? A lot of people expected the baby boomers to sell property and move to retirement or to downsize or what have you, and those properties would become available. And what we've seen is exactly the opposite of that. We've seen people stay in place because those baby boomers are looking at the market going, what can I purchase for that's less than what I have now, single level or whatever. And they go out and they look at the market and they go, well, I can't purchase anything, right? I mean, it's more expensive actually to purchase that than just to stay put where I am at the moment. And so those boomers are staying in place and they're aging in place, which is keeping inventory off the market. But at some point, I forget the actual number, but there's billions of dollars in equity in these boomers' property. That money is going to pass along generational, right? It's going to go to the younger families, those millennials in some cases that are looking to buy property, which is, in my opinion, is going to continue to give these potential buyers the amount of money that they need for down payment, along with parents helping out. I mean, I have a lot of clients that are purchasing their first home, and the down payment, a lot of it's coming from parents who have saved money and or have cashed out equities in some case to give their kids money to buy a house, because otherwise they feel like they're reaching a point where if they don't do it now, it might be too late in a couple of years. And I realize that's a really long way of getting to the fact that I don't believe they're a bubble, just because there's too much demand, not enough supply. And we can go back and talk about the home builders and the lack of homes they're building and how many homes were short. But I mean, we could really talk about this for 30 minutes straight. But, in lieu of doing that, I'll just say, no, I don't believe it, because I feel like the fundamentals at the moment are pretty solid.
Yeah, it's funny because as a real estate agent, I talk to customers all the time, and they say, well, the last time we crashed, prices were at 800,000. Now we're at 800 again. We're going to crash because the last time they crashed, we were at 800. What they're not taking into consideration is that the cost of living over that time has gone up, meaning rents back then maybe were 2,400. Now they're 3,200. Groceries were X, now they're Y, so they're not taking into account that over time things naturally go up. A friend of mine said this quote. He said, houses are not more expensive, the dollar is worth less, meaning that the dollar has been devalued because of all the printing of money.